All right, so we are live now. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I am joined also by Hope Parrish, who is the president of the Historical Society and an avid Culver City history buff. And today, we're going to be talking about some of our Culver City neighborhoods, especially Culver City's first neighborhood. And we're doing this via StreamYard today, so it's a little bit different. So normally I say hi to everyone, and as you come on, you're watching. And this time I can't see who you are. I can't see who's on. So if you say hello in the comments, I will see it, and I will say hello back. But for now, Hope, can you give us a little bit of the history in Culver City's first neighborhood?
Sure. Let me just start out by saying that I'm not a historian, and I'm not Culver City's historian. That would be Julie Lugosera. But as a kid who grew up in Culver City, I love our history. Our history is constantly evolving. New insights into our history is constantly, coming to us. And but I really love our hometown. And a few, over the years, I always wondered, who named our streets in this little area that I grew up in. I grew up in Carlson Park. They call it that now. And my grandfather came here a long time ago in the early 30s and built his house on Mentone. And we've just been here ever since. And so I started doing a little research, and there was, through the Spanish land grants, Macedonio Aguilar's pastures. He had 15 acres of land that he sold to this Italian immigrant who migrated from Genoa, Italy to San Francisco. And he got into real estate after he was in America for, 10 years or better, and bought this plot of land, about 15 acres, from the Aguilar family, and started the Washington Improvement Company. And then the track was named track number 1775, and it ran from Washington to the creek to one half a block beyond Jackson.
Okay.
Thinking, okay, who named Jackson Jackson?
Right.
Lafayette. Well, I always thought Harry Culver did, but it was, Harry Culver fought the Spanish-American War. He was a military man. His father was a lifelong military serviceman and career service, I guess you would say. And but this Camilo Serrahino, I think is how you say it, he named all of the streets from Van Buren to Jackson. I'm not sure if he named Washington, because Washington went all the way to the beach, but he might have, because his business was on Washington Boulevard, and it was the Washington Improvement Company.
Wow.
Culver decided to buy this property in 1913 before he made his speech in downtown Los Angeles, telling all the businessmen what his plan was for this new city after arriving here from Nebraska. And the city, our first neighborhood, was called Washington. We called it the, what did they call it? They called it the Washington track. And then now it's kind of called Gateway. And Gateway runs from our second school in Culver City, which was originally called Culver Grammar, and now it's Linwood E. Howell, all the way to where the footprint of the racetrack, Carlson Park, place just on the other side of Jackson. There's a little cut through. A lot of kids used to lived on the other side of town, and we cut through to go to neighborhoods rather than being on Braddock a lot. And someone said to me a few years back that he felt that was the last remaining piece of the last Los Angeles Speedway that was there. And I thought, oh, maybe, Julie's always said, people embellish stories, and, you have to really dig deep and uncover the truth before you start telling what you believe is your truth. And I'm like, yeah, that could be, but maybe not. Lore, I guess you call it lore.
Yeah.
That was our first neighborhood.
That's very cool. I've read, your article on the naming of the streets, and even, me growing up here, I like you thought Harry Culver named all of our streets, and Of course, I knew about Machado and the Machado family and all that stuff, but I had no idea that it was somebody else that had actually named the.
Yeah, the Aguilar family, they're the land that this one particular Macedonio had. It was the Palms and this tract in Culver City that he subdivided when he started, selling off the properties from the Spanish land grant. And Palms, interestingly enough, around 1914, Los Angeles was going to annex us and the Palms. They wanted us to join the county and join the city of Los Angeles. And Harry Culver said, no, we're not going to do that. And he really tried to convince Palms to be like us, be an independent, and we weren't incorporated yet, but the idea was already there that we would be incorporated. We would have our own fire department, our own police department, our own school district. We weren't going to be told what we can do by the county, except by things that the county is in control of, deeds and things like that, where it's a county regulated, document. But our schools, that was what made Culver City so unique, And then being from Nebraska, I couldn't help but see when I was there on that movie, Nebraska, with Bruce Dern, there was something really familiar there for me. The people were just so sweet and so nice, and much like Culver City, where you're walking down the street and you smile at the person, say, hello, how are you doing? And that's the way Culver City's always been.
Yeah.
With the parks, I don't care how small this town is, if it had 100 people or 20,000 people, there was a park in all the different neighborhoods. And that was the thing that I always loved about our history here, is that Harry Culver was an advocate for parks with the developers that were coming into Culver City, Lindblade and Coombs and Mr. Brown over there at Lindbergh Park, and so many different developers that came in here from time to time.
Yeah, I love that about Culver City, all the different parks that we have, you get a couple little ones in Palms, every so often, but nothing like Culver City. We're very fortunate to have so many parks, and no matter where you live, there's a park close by.
Well, the unfortunate thing that Palms, by them, going into with LA County, is that they really were kind of the forgotten child in so many ways. Palms has been through so many ups and downs, where Culver City, because we're our own infrastructure, we just basically kept a very smooth running. And I love seeing the new revitalization over there, but it's doesn't feel quaint and wholesome, and where everybody's invited to be,
Yeah, I love that about our town. We're a fairly large city. I still think of us as a small town, where you grow up knowing your neighbors. And, some of my friends from high school, my parents went to high school with their parents in Culver. You don't get that too many other places in LA County. It makes us very special and very unique. And then to be incorporated and have our own fire and police and everything else, it's one of the things that makes us so special and so different.
Yeah, it's true. I feel very blessed that both my parents, my grandparents, came to Culver City. They found work in the studio business, but there was infrastructure here. Harry Culver made sure he had industry here for people. The first 3 months of our existence, the next thing he bought was a tract which included Main Street, Watika, Cardiff. He bought this and that area there, and he developed downtown. He put in, they had a pharmacy, they had the hardware store, they had, little cafes, bakeries. It became a vital city, and it had things for the community who were buying in here that worked here, which is what we want to do today. We want to be able to live in Culver City, work in Culver City, and eat in Culver City.
Right.
If you're from Culver City, that happened, and then in the 60s, it was like if you went out to eat, you went out fancy, because there was nothing left in Culver City. All the parents that we grew up with, oh gosh, I can't think in the Studio Village there. It doesn't matter, but we rolled up the carpets at 6 o'clock. That's pretty much how I explained to my friends. They're like, where do you live? Culver City. Where is that?
Yeah.
Look at us. I don't think anybody would have had any clue that the city would be exploding like it is and be so welcomed by so many. And just it's constantly changing, growing, evolving. She's just a good little town.
Yeah, and I think no matter what we do, there's always room for growth. But the one thing that I think we have to continue to fight for and do responsibly as we develop is just make sure that we maintain our city's character. Keep some of those things that make Culver City so unique and so different. When people think of the West Side, when they talk about small charm and small city feel, they talk about Culver City. It's definitely something that makes us unique.
Yeah, it is. And it is changing, and you have to embrace change. I have to, or I'm not a happy person. And I've been embracing it. And there's a lot of, I think, good things that are going to come from it. Traffic won't be one of them, but other things will make up for that, I believe.
Yeah.
We have a unique thing here, and generational. We have generational people that have lived here generationally. We have new people coming in. I'm so excited to see all the new children in my neighborhood. Exciting, and in our schools, I don't.
My parents actually, my dad's mom bought her condo over on Overland, the Beverlywood West, in like 1965, and my mom moved into Culver City in the early 70s ish, because her family originally bought a house over there behind like where the McDonald's is. They bought this house and they moved in, and they were going to St. Augustine's, but then they decided to send their kids to public schools. Well, they realized that wasn't zoned for Culver City schools. And they were like, oh no, we're not doing the LA thing. So they sold the house and moved into Blanco Park. People have always sought our schools, and our fire and police and, some of those other things that we get from being an incorporated city.
Yeah, I think there's something that to be said about that, and the fact that, we had a lot of parades throughout my life and my parents growing up here. The 40s, 50s, and 60s, when Culver City was really kind of evolving and growing, and our high school came to be, on the backbone of others. There was a lot of things that happened that, once again, government dictates certain things that we either acquire or we get denied. But, Culver City was a really fun town to live in, and it still is. I just get heartbroken when I see some of our Americana going away. I'm glad the parks, they haven't touched parks, but the Christmas tree is our beacon on top of Vets Auditorium. Right. It's like, really? We can't hire these monkeys that I worked with in the studio business, these stunt guys, and have them come up here and hang this thing? I mean, right. We can do this. The 4th of July, oh my God. You talk about Americana. It's a Norman Rockwell picture where people go into the high school to go watch the fireworks. And yes, it's that little piece of Americana. The most thrilling thing was for Centennial when we had our parades in the schools and the floats and the marching bands. And, that's what I would love to see Culver City come back with, more of that family embracing the community, our neighbors, being neighborly with our neighbors, and continuing to feel that this should be a safe zone. This should be a place where you can come and you're okay. Because I'll tell you, when I worked in the business, every time I came home from location, I would lock myself in my little place here and just hibernate for about 7 days to decompress from being someplace else for 6 months. And I always felt safe. That's the part about not living in Los Angeles, but living in Culver City.
Absolutely. So we have Maria Lopez and Rafia Cooper who are saying hello.
Hi, Rafia.
And Rafia says, I miss the 4th of July at CCHS. I agree, Rafia. I remember, always as a kid, we'd go to the 4th of July show there. And every year, my brothers and I, we'd run around the park all day, waiting for it to get dark enough for them to start the fireworks. And without a doubt, every time we ended up passed out on a blanket and being woken up to the start of the fireworks show. I think my parents planned it that way. They were like, how do we sneak in a nap time in here? But it was always so much fun because, my grandma would go with us, and later on, it would be my parents and us, but we always ran into somebody that they knew, from high school, or somebody that they had grown up with. And, you don't get that too many other places, and it's definitely something I missed about even going to West LA College. It changed just enough for it to seem, okay, it's still there, but it's not quite the same,
I can appreciate West LA College and Jim Limbaugh jumping to our rescue when,
Right.
And it was a logical reason why we don't have it there, but it was just heartbreaking.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Totally understandable. However, it's one of those moments where you're like, oh man, I missed that.
I know. Me too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start a petition to get our tree back. We need to hire a couple of monkeys, stunt guys. They know how to do this. We need the beacon on top of it.
I know. I missed it. The projections were nice, but they're definitely not the same. The Christmas tree, it's one of those, you're on the freeway or you're coming down the streets and you see it and you're home.
Yeah.
It's one of those, at least, to me, the holidays, it's just, it doesn't feel the same without that tree there.
Yeah.
And
coming back from the West Side Pavilion, doing our Christmas show, coming up to the hill on Overland, down it, and there's our tree.
Yeah, exactly. You stand on the top of your hill and you're like, home is right there. And there's no better feeling than that. So for those of you who are just tuning in, because I see that there's more people watching right now than before, I'm here with Hope, and we've been talking about the neighborhoods and the changes in our neighborhoods. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. We are live on Facebook, but we're actually using a program called StreamYard, so I can't see you unless you say hello to me in the comments. So if you say hello or ask a question, we can answer it. But yeah, so for those of you who are just joining, Hope talked about the first neighborhood, which is the Gateway neighborhood, right?
The Gateway. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what was it before that for the people that just joined?
It was part of a Spanish land grant that a Genoan man from Genoa, Italy, immigrant, purchased the land, and Harry Culver purchased it from him in 1913, and he kept a little teeny parcel. He kept a little over half acre of land. It's right on the corner of Madison and Farragut, and he and his wife lived there until he passed away. And then my sister went to school with the Stressel. No, it was the Prince family bought them, and they're still there. And it's a beautiful, beautiful garden. At one time, Culver City was going to try to, before the Prince family bought it, they were going to try to get that property. The council, one of the members had tried to get it so that they could put a park right there, because it was already lush with trees and botanicals and things. Right. But, so that would have made a really nice parkway there, like our Carlson Park and Lindbergh Park and Sid Cronenthal Park, the old McManus, Blanco Park. It just, there's so many beautiful little communities here that have parks, which is a gift of our forefathers, making that every community had an elementary school and a park, and that's what made it special,
Yeah, I agree. Each one of our little schools has a wonderful park attached to it. But I definitely love that, you go to the school in your neighborhood, and you meet all of these kids, and, they're all people that, usually live near you, or their parents work in Culver City somewhere near you. And when you go to middle school, and we all meet up, that gets real fun and real interesting. Because you hear about these other schools, and there's other kids out there, but you've grown up, like for me, it was all the Blanco Park kids, and going there and meeting friends from El Marino and Farragut and Lynn Howe, and I mean, it's kind of special the way that we all come together starting in middle school to go through high school.
That's the unique thing, and it's really fun going to a reunion and you have, okay, let's have the Farragut people over here. Let's have,
Right.
the Betsy Ross over here. We're going to have, La Bayona kids here. And it's really fun because you all merge together at that junior high. And it's like, oh my gosh, you thought you had like an amazing group of cultured of kids in elementary school. Who you got 7 times that when you get to junior high.
Yes, exactly.
Our class in 1976, I think we had 565 seniors in our class. That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, I think I graduated from Culver High in 2009. So I think our graduating class was about the same size, 565 or so,
Well, if you think about Culver City too, right now we might have 40,000 people maybe-ish. And if you look at 1940, and we were in 1965, it's a perfect year. 1965, we had 32,000 people in Culver City. So our population never really grew because our city had a footprint. You couldn't really do too much. I mean, when the studios got rid of 4 lots, that allowed for homes and condos. And then that's when we had a little boost in the middle 70s, but it's basically, we're almost at the same amount of people. It's just, I'm glad that we have more young people back in the city and the schools, the numbers are up because, we had a little dry spell there and it's like after the 80s, there was, because everybody was grown up,
Yeah. Grow up and move out. And
yeah.
I the other day, something that I thought was super unique to Culver City is even those of us, that may grow up and move out, somehow we always end up back. Culver City is just, it really is a beacon, and no matter where you go, what you do, Culver City always feels like home.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's one of the best qualities about Culver City is it's so inviting, it's so friendly, it's so warm, that no matter where you are, you miss Culver City and it calls to you.
Well, one, when it's miserable air all around with the heat and the humidity that we are now starting to feel in these as our times are changing, there's no place you can get a beautiful breeze where you can open your back door, open your front door, and have this gorgeous breeze come through your house.
Yes.
On earth that I can figure that one out. The climate is so good. It might be really overcast at the beach, but we do get some sunshine. It may be overcast all day at the beach.
Yeah.
And it used to be when the red tide hit, you could smell it in Culver City.
Yes.
You could smell red tide. Like, we're not that far. We're only 3 miles from the beach.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no place like it.
Yeah. Culver City, I mean, it's definitely one of the reasons, I decided to run for council is I love my city, and I want to see us grow and I want to see us continue to thrive, but maintain some of that Culver City charm while we do it, and I think that's really important. I know a lot of people have talked about, the changes to downtown and, the Culver Steps, and things of that nature. And downtown, I feel like, is always the first place to upgrade because it's downtown, but you look around to the other neighborhoods and you still feel that small town feel,
Yeah.
So Leela Peeler, hi Heather, where's my lawn sign? Hi Leela, they're coming in on Friday, so I'll message you on Friday when they come in and I'll bring one by. I know a lot of people have been waiting on them. I promise they're coming, shipping. So yeah, but Hope, I want to say thank you for coming on today and talking about, the first neighborhood in Culver City. There's a lot of stuff not even I knew. I think it's really fun, because Culver City has such a unique history and so many different aspects of Culver City that make us so unique. Being in LA, you don't often think of small town feel or anything like that, but you come to Culver City and you're like, whoa, this is so different. Even just driving through, you can feel the difference.
Right. Right. And people for years, I mean, they drive by it on the 405 and, and then the mall, but before the mall, We had a golf course up above. We had stables.
Yeah.
We had go-kart things. We had 2 bowling alleys in Culver City, roller drum, an ice rink. I mean, there was so much for kids to do in this town.
My mom always talks about the roller dome. She loves the roller skate, you know?
And
And
then you had the creek. If you were really bored, you could go get pollywogs down at the creek. You know,
yeah.
always something to do.
My grandpa talks about the Fox Hills being a golf course because he used to caddy for his dad there. And my dad talks about, when he and his friends were young knuckleheads and they were building the Fox Hills Mall, riding their bike through there. And, I mean, it's just, there's so many good stories about as Culver City develops and adds more, a lot of this are things that all of us remember. And, I mean, even tonight I'm excited to go to the screening of Ghostbusters for Steve Culver at the Sony lot. I was telling everyone I remember the studio drive-in, but from the time I was a kid, it was always closed. So I never understood the concept really of a drive-in theater. I was more mad at the time that they had this wonderful playground, but it was all fenced off and you couldn't go play. So this is my
awesome playground.
Yeah.
The swings and the merry-go-round and
the merry-go-round is what made it. I think my brothers and I were like, we want to go do that.
Just running up and down the thing, because you'd have to park your car up on a little hill, and just running up and down the hills. I mean, the thing, as you get older and it becomes makeout time, but when you're younger, it's like a Disney movie, a station wagon, jammies, and popcorn. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny to see it change because, I went to El Rincon and my niece is now going there. So she's the 3rd generation to go to El Rincon now because my parents also went to El Rincon. And it's so funny because the 2-story building they have there in the back, I remember when they were building it. So all during my elementary school years, that was what we called the new building. Oh, you have a class in the new building. Oh, how cool. And, my niece is talking about it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, the new building. And she's like, it's old. And it's so funny. And Todd Baker says, and the Fox Hills Golf Course was a Little Rascals location for one of the films. I did not know that, Todd. That's very interesting. I'll have to go back and rewatch it and see, quite what it looks like. Because my grandpa talks about it all the time, but obviously I'm not old enough to remember the golf course there. But my grandpa growing up in Venice in the 40s. So
when they did the dig up there, when they were building the Fox Hills Mall, we ended up getting the Culver City Historical Society got boxes of remnants from there, things that they found. They dug up thousands of bottles, but different memorabilia from there. And we have a display when we do a full display of the golf course. It's pretty interesting. And when we ever open again, it would be wonderful to show it off.
Absolutely. I can't wait till you guys reopen. I really want to go see some of your stuff. And I know we were talking earlier and you're working on some different displays and it should be a lot of fun. The Historical Society is a wonderful addition to Culver City and preserving its history and making sure that everyone understands who we are, where we came from, and how this city is adapted and grown.
And it's basically, the Historical Society is about a little over 40 years old, but it basically is, we grow with our knowledge with things that people bring to us. We don't have the answers. We have things that have been gifted to us, things that we're the caretakers for. And it's really about researching and acquisitions that will help to tell the story. I don't shut my door on anything that people want to donate to us because I feel like really awesome things that, there's a lot of studio things have been coming this last year. Few people have passed on from our neighborhoods, and we're the beneficiary of these wonderful things that we want to display for our community and for, being part of the Culver City Cultural Corridor.
Right.
So, Culver City, forgot about the corridor. That's a pretty awesome thing too. We just got Amy Clayton back here again one day,
Yeah.
that was awesome. But
Yeah, hopefully someday. Someday, I would love for us to have, a giant spot to have a great museum that celebrates all of Culver City's history and everything that we are, everything that we were, and everything that that we may very well be.
yeah,
I think that would be wonderful in our city. So Candace says hello. Hi Candace, nice to have you on. She says it's a beautiful place to experience. I agree. I agree. So
yeah.
we are out of time for today, but thank you, Hope. I hope that we'll have you on again.
Oh, I'd love to do it, Heather. The one thing I love talking about is Culver City.
Me too. I'm the same way. And Rafia saying Culver City has a lot of history, especially in the movie industry, which I know you have a plethora of things and experience that you can talk about. So maybe we'll talk about that next week if you're interested.
Oh yeah, I got a little couple shows I've done here at Culver Studios. There's some little Hollywood secrets there. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, anybody, if you have questions, comments, go ahead and leave them. I do read them all afterwards. And if you want to find out more about me or my campaign, you can go to my website, HeatherforCulverCityCouncil.com. And again, today I've had on Hope Parrish, and hopefully she'll be back next week, and maybe we'll go over some of the movie industry fun facts about Culver City. So, all right, everyone, I hope you all have a wonderful Wednesday, and I'll see you all next week.
Everyone be well.
Bye-bye.